as an engineer, I have I have a problem that sort of plagued me my entire adult life, and that is that I have a whole cluster of assets at home, like a Windows machine, a bunch of, a couple media servers, a NAS, a few other things, and I can't connect to that stuff easily from the outside. I have to be home, or I have to employ one of a handful of techniques that up until our solution, all of these techniques have problems. For example, port forwarding. Like, this is what I started with when I had a web server at home and I wanted to be able to get to it from anywhere. But port forwarding is really complicated for the average user. There are security issues with port forwarding in the sense that the application receiving the data on that port, now you're trusting that application's security. If you're behind a firewall, you may have to deal with firewall rules. And then ultimately, if you do something like that, you wind up having to remember a constantly changing public IP address unless you set up yet another service like DNS. And pretty soon you can see this is like a stack of solutions to solve one problem. So port forwarding, it works okay, but it's really problematic and it's way too complicated for the average user. Then the next sort of solution that emerged for this was cloud storage. Cloud storage saved the world from running around with USB sticks, but it only moves files, right? I can move files up into the cloud and I can sync those files to another device, but the problem that I run into is I have to trust the cloud provider. If I delete a file, I have to trust that they really deleted it. I have to trust that they aren't decrypting, various cloud providers may encrypt their physical storage or not. There are a ton of issues with cloud storage that don't solve all my problems. Like, it's fine for moving files, but there's a trust issue, and then web servers, other services, media streams, there's all kinds of things that don't work through those kinds of services. And then the last is this sort of, I think, most recent service that's come to the world, and that's this sort of zero config remote access solution like TeamViewer, LogMeIn. And these solutions are really cool, but they do have the same central problem that the cloud storage server problem presents, and that is that with a zero config remote access, my security now depends on a third-party service. There's a server out in the cloud somewhere, and both my devices are making a connection to that server. And so now all my data goes over that server. I have to trust that that server is not decrypting in flight, and I have to trust that they're not storing anything. That's a big issue, especially if you're dealing with sensitive data or you don't necessarily don't know if you can trust the service provider. And I think that's where we come in. Our solution completely changes this landscape. With our solution and the HIPrelay, I can now put a server at home on a private IP address that is totally unroutable to the world, and I can connect to it from anywhere. I can be at a coffee shop, I can be on a boat somewhere with satellite access. It does not matter. As long as I can reach the public internet from both sides, I can make a secure connection that does not involve me trusting some third-party service to maybe clean up or delete my data. Our relay does not decrypt in flight, and it does not store anything, and you control it. You can deploy it in your infrastructure, you can put it in the cloud if you have a trusted cloud provider that you like, or you can deploy it locally inside your WAN. But no matter how you deploy it, it's a device that you own. It does not decrypt in flight. And what that means is now I can sit at a hotel, connect to their maybe poorly configured Wi-Fi access, and know that every single packet of the data that I transferred from my server at home to my server or my local laptop, every single packet was encrypted and encapsulated into the HIP protocol before it ever hit the interface and ever had a chance to be seen by a hostile network or a poorly configured security device. I know for a fact that in between those two endpoints, that data is not in the clear. And every step of the way, that data is encrypted between those two endpoints. There is zero trust that I have to a third-party service or to a box that I don't control. And to me, that is a life-changing, workflow-changing proposition. I can now put a media server at home, and I can get to it from anywhere where I can get to the internet from. I can now make direct connections over cellular between two devices on cellular WANs behind massive carrier NATs, and they can still connect. It's amazing.